It has been almost a full calendar year since Steam announced the Steam Deck. Maybe you could call it their answer to the Nintendo Switch. Maybe you could just call it a pretty revolutionary handheld gaming PC. And since then, there have been a whole slew of competitors crop up with potentially more power, although probably not more performance, as weird as that is, and also a way higher price tag. And apparently, when the Steam Deck was announced, not too long after that, I guess I reserved one of them, even though I actually don't have any recollection of doing this. However, I did receive my email about 10 days ago, something like that, that my reservation was up and I could purchase my Steam Deck. I did so, and it's actually right over my shoulder there. So in this video, I'm going to quickly unbox it, probably have a time jump of about a day, maybe less, maybe it'll just be later on in this particular day, and then I'm going to give you my first impressions, and then after that, there will be some other videos coming down the line. But for now, I've been anxiously waiting for this thing, and I am ready to unbox it, so let's do that now. So this is a really big box, and kind of strangely, they just ship it in a box like this, like it's not in anything else. My label was on top. I peeled it off so that my address would not be visible on there, and I believe this is it. The Steam Deck should be in here. There's a big thing of tape here. I need a knife. All right, knife in hand. Let's open this thing up and see what is inside. I've actually not watched an unboxing of this, so I don't really know what to expect here. Attention! Plug in. So they want me to plug this thing in immediately. Plug it in, and then I guess power it on? Okay, sure, I can handle that. And then it looks like we have sort of some instructions here about what button does what. This button does that, this button does that. Put an SD card in there. Sure, sounds great. This should be a power adapter, I would assume. I need my knife again. You gotta love that everything is USB-C now, right? That's so good. This says it's 15 volts at 3 amps. So that would be like a 45 watt charger. So that's fine. That means I've actually got several chargers around the house that will work just fine. Some paperwork in there, we'll set that aside, and here's the Steam Deck, and as you may be able to tell here, it's in a carrying case. Your games are going places. See what you did there, Steam. Valve, you clever girl. Oh, and it looks like it's kind of locked shut. I need my knife one more time. That's weird. I guess it lets you know that it's never been opened. I mean, that's I guess something. Am I the only one that absolutely hates the feeling of a zipper? Like, that makes my skin crawl really badly. And there we go. There is the Steam Deck. And I got to tell you something, guys. You've seen pictures of it, I'm sure. I've seen pictures of it, videos of it. It's a lot bigger than you can really even imagine. This thing is so big. Here's a Nintendo Switch Lite for comparison. Oh my God. It's like the Switch Lite is like the child of this thing. It's so large, but how heavy is it? It's okay. So like it's heavy. Like yeah, it's heavy, but like for how big it is, I don't think it's as heavy as I thought it was gonna be. Oh man, it feels nice. It feels really nice. So let's do a quick around the device type deal. This thing is so freaking big. All right, so on the front of it, you've obviously got A, B, X, Y. How do the buttons feel? They're fine. Not bad at all. You have two joysticks, which they're a little slippery actually on top there. Maybe I'll get used to that, but the sticks feel fine. The travel on them, how does that compare to the travel on the Switch Lite? Oh, it's a lot more. It's a lot more travel, which means that shooters and so forth will be a lot better. There's a D-pad. It's not very clicky, but that's okay. Buttons down here, buttons up here. You have a set of bumpers up top, which are just clicky, and then fully analog triggers. Those are not digital, those are analog. So you have varying degrees of press. That is good to see. Power button on top, volume on top, headphone, and then on the back you've actually got some more buttons. And those are very clicky. So I guess you can map those to whatever, and they really do just sit right where your hand naturally goes. You also have two track pads over here. So if you want to play like an RTS or you want to be mousing around in the desktop mode, you're free to do so. There on the bottom, you've got your micro SD, and that looks to be about it. So let's get this thing plugged in and going. Okay, so we are into this thing now. I'm going to turn off the lights because I don't have the anti-reflective screen because I'm cheap and I bought the cheap one. So we're going to shut off the lights so you can see. This is sort of the setup process here. We're going to select English. This is a touchscreen, so I suppose I can just do it that way too. Pacific is not my time zone. I am in the Eastern time zone. That is my Wi-Fi. Let's see how the typing, I mean, typing on this, you're definitely not doing that, right? So, but you can type like this though. Okay, that wasn't so bad at all. We're going to continue forward in our setup. Looks like we are now installing an update automatically here. So I'll take this opportunity to clarify a couple of things. If you don't know what I'm talking about with this Steam Deck, you may be wondering, what do you mean reservations? Well, this device is not something you can just go to a store and purchase. You actually have to put in a reservation, and then it may be months and months before you're actually able to buy this thing. They've not made very many of them, and they're not selling, well, they're selling all of them that they're making, so I guess that's fair. Let's also take a look here at some of our specifications here. So this is a diagram, some stuff I've already covered. It is a 7-inch touchscreen. I believe it's 1280 by 700. We are rocking an AMD APU. This is customized though, right? This is not just a straight up off the shelf part. It is a little bit customized by Valve for this device. It is a Zen 2 4-core 8-thread 2.4 to 3.5 gigahertz processor, pretty solid. The GPU is based on RDNA 2. It is running between 1 gigahertz and 1.6 gigahertz up to 1.6 teraflops, which for a handheld is very, very impressive, and it's going to use between 4 and 15 watts. A really important thing here is that it has 16 gigabytes of LPDDR5 RAM. That's very fast RAM, and the RAM is shared between the CPU, the GPU. There's no VRAM. It's all shared by the same thing, but it is in quad 32-bit channels, which for a AMD setup is extremely important. If this thing was only in a single channel or even dual channel, performance would hurt. They've gone to quad channel, which is really going to help performance. Mine does have the 64 gigabyte eMMC storage because, again, I went with the cheaper version. This can be swapped out, and you can also use an SD card. I was correct about the resolution, 16 by 10, so it's a bit taller than 16 by 9. 400 nits is typical brightness. Ambient light sensor, of course, it is only 60 hertz for a gaming system. That's going to be fine, especially for a handheld. Stereo speaker is a dual microphone array, so you can actually install Discord on this and potentially be gaming and talking to your friends using the microphone built in. 40 watt hour battery is going to be between 2 and 8 hours of gameplay, which that's going to vary really heavily dependent upon what you're actually playing. If you're playing some old indie games or something that's not very hard to run, you might get 8 hours. If you're going to be playing Elden Ring, well, yeah, 2 hours might be more reasonable. 669 grams, that does in fact make sense. And then what's really cool here is that it is running SteamOS, which is based on Arch Linux, and it has the KDE Plasma desktop. And that's something that I'm going to talk about later, is going into desktop mode and what can you do productivity wise. This thing is USB-C, so I could grab a USB hub, plug it in, mouse, keyboard, monitor, and potentially get work done on it. You could use this as your only computer, conceivably. That's something I definitely want to explore. We are almost done with our update. We are currently, I believe, doing some sort of reboot thing. And while that update is almost done, we just went black. We're about to boot back up. This is the price range. This is the one I bought, 64 gigs of eMMC storage for $399. $529 jumps up to a much faster NVMe drive, and it's also more storage. And then $649 gets you a rather large 512 gigabyte NVMe SSD. Again, these things are upgradable. You can pop the back off of this thing and buy off of eBay or Amazon or wherever an appropriately sized SSD and pop it in. So if I'm not happy with this later, I can buy a new drive, download SteamOS, and reinstall it. Or like I said, I've got like it's either a 400 or a 512 gig SD card. I'm going to use that in the meantime and decide what I want to do from there. But I think we can jump back into the hardware. Okay, we are in it. Now, one thing I think I can do here, this is too bright for my camera, so let's hit this button here. This should bring out like a quick settings, and I think I can reduce the brightness here until you guys can actually see maybe what's going on here a little bit. Okay, that's a bit better. Now I need to sign into Steam. All right, we are now logged in. Press any button or tap the screen to continue. This is the Steam button, so this will allow you to access your library, store, settings, and more. Press and hold to view Steam button shortcuts. This is the quick access button. Notifications, friends list, quick settings, and more. Power button up top. Volume buttons up there, obviously. And then SD card down below. All right, so this is my Steam library. And you can move this with the touchscreen as well, which is really, really neat. So here are my recent games, and ostensibly any of these that I would like to have, I can simply select. And so here is Rocket League. I can just go ahead and install this. It's 22 gigabytes. That's going to take up a lot of my storage, but I do have that SD card. Maybe I'll grab that card and we'll get to work on that as well. All right, so we have this thing now plugged into a USB capture card via a USB-C hub. So we're gonna really quickly take a look here at the interface so that you guys can kind of see it firsthand. So this is the home screen, and on this home screen, you can see my recent games, and I can scroll through them like this. You can see some of them are downloading, some of them are downloaded already. You've got your what's new section, your friends, so forth and so on. That's all quite cool. If you hit the Steam button down there bottom left, you can move into your library, and it is actually separated between Great on Deck, which basically means games that they have tested, that they're like, yes, this does work on Steam Deck. You're also going to be seeing some games from my wife's library. Comment down below if you can guess which ones are which that you can see currently. You can also, though, go over to all games, which, you know, you may be a little bit in the weeds here, right? Some games might not run super well. You can see there that 7 Days to Die has a little yellow exclamation point. That means it might work okay, it might not work well at all. And then other games, let's see if I can find an example here. Cattails is okay, I guess Cattails is good to go. Some games say they don't work at all. You see it's crossed out there, and then a game like Dead Poly has a question mark. They don't know how well it's going to work at all. Of course, you can jump into the store just like you would on just like you would on your computer. You can purchase games from the Steam store. Duh, of course, that's how that works. Friends in chat media is going to show you your screenshots, and then of course you can go and check out your downloads as well, and you can see here what kind of download speed I'm getting. My internet is not super duper fast, but it's actually utilizing, I would say, a decent amount of my internet connection speed to download these games, so I'm not complaining about this at all. You have a whole plethora of settings that I think all look very, very nice. It's a good in-depth settings system. Let's take a quick look here at this quick menu over here on the side, because there's a lot of good stuff here as well. So you've got notifications. I'm getting these cloud errors for some reason that I don't really know what that is. You've got your friends list there, and then you've got this area here where you can change your brightness, your volume, your microphone, a bunch of quick settings like haptics and rumble, which is really nice. As far as battery, though, look at what you can do here. You can either buy the whole system, or in a per game way, you can actually change the frame rate. So a lot of games, you might have VSync or something like this, but this you can actually go in and manually limit the frame rate. But you can also limit the refresh rate, because you can actually get a smoother experience by limiting the frame rate and the refresh rate. They become easier to lock correctly. Half rate shading, you can actually limit the TDP so you can use less power. You can manually control the GPU clock. You have a scaling filter with FSR, so you can actually lower the internal resolution of a game and then use scaling to make it look better. And you have a performance overlay, which will show you your frame rate in the top left corner there. There is a ton of stuff to go through, but I'm going to keep downloading some games, play some stuff, and then I'll be back. All right, for you, only like a moment has passed. For me, it has been many, many hours. In fact, it is now the next day, and I've spent a decent amount of time playing games on my Steam Deck, and I do have some thoughts to share. So, initially, I'm going to admit, when I first started to play some stuff on, I'm looking through my games and I'm trying some things out, I had some that brief feeling of buyer's remorse, where I thought to myself, man, that I spent over $400 on something that I may not actually spend all that much time with. I wasn't quite sure if it made sense for me, but I had a bit of a breakthrough this afternoon. I went to my mom's house to mow her yard, as I do every couple of weekends, and after I was done, my wife and my mom were going to some yard sales in the area, so I went upstairs to spend some time with my little brother while I waited on them to return before I could come back home. And he was upstairs playing something on his iPad. I brought the Steam Deck with me because he plays, not only does he play on a PC that I built for him, he plays some stuff on the Nintendo Switch, so I thought he might be interested in seeing this thing. So I showed it to him. I loaded up Days Gone, and I ran around a little bit, and I finally got some controls set up on there, and that was okay. But the breakthrough happened when I started showing him some of my favorite indie games that I was planning on replaying on the Steam Deck. I loaded up Spelunky, I loaded up Titan Souls, I loaded up Hotline Miami, and all of these games were really, really good. And for me, That was the breakthrough moment. This thing is not going to be a system that I'm going to be playing top tier AAA titles on. It just isn't. It's not something I'm going to feel good doing. These first person shooters and things like that, using these little sticks, I'm a mouse and keyboard guy. This is how I aim, okay? I don't like using sticks to aim. That stuff does not feel that good to me. Even using the gyro controls, which I'm working on some of these games, getting that to work, it's passable, right? It's a thing you can do if you can't get to your computer. But what felt really good were those indie games. Titan Souls is one of my all-time favorite games. Most people don't even know what this game is, but it's fantastic. If you've never played it before, it's cheap. Check it out. You're going to enjoy it. It felt really good on the Steam Deck. It felt right at home, and it put me in a mindset. It put me in a mindset I used to be in with another system, which I'm going to grab for comparison. And that is my trusty lowly PlayStation Vita, which, by the way, can we do a size comparison here? Because that is absolutely ridiculous. But this was a system that I loved. And what did I do on it? I played a bunch of indie games, right? I played Sound Shapes. I played Guacamelee. I played all of these sorts of smaller games like Titan Souls, and I loved it for that. And when the indie games kind of dried up, I moved on. Well, now we have a system here that can play indie games on the PC, and I'm playing these games with the TDP turned down to 8 watts or something, and I'm still crushing through at 60 FPS, or 30 FPS, I should say. So the indie games aren't going to dry up. That's what Steam Deck, I think, is going to be for me in terms of gaming. It's going to be this ultimate handheld indie gaming platform, and that made me immediately think I don't have buyer's remorse anymore. I think I'm actually happy to have this thing. I will mention that it is still a learning curve for me. It is so large that reaching these buttons, reaching down here, I don't have very big hands, so all of this stuff requires a bit more movement than I would like, just because of the physical size of the thing. And then getting used to hitting these buttons back here, that's never been a thing for me. So I'm having to like relearn to use a controller again, because I'm a mouse and keyboard guy now. I grew up playing on consoles. I've spent so much time on a PC as of late that I've kind of forgotten all of those skills. I can't really do shooters and things like that. So the ergonomics, it's big. I have small hands. I'm still okay with it. My wife needs to play a bit because her hands are absolutely diminutive. So if she can handle it, it'll be okay. I'll definitely update you guys on that. But yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. This thing, the hardware feels great. The software is decent. I've actually had 2 full crashes where the thing is fully rebooted. I'm not sure if it's something that I've done, because I've installed some things on there, some fun little emulators and the Heroic Game Launcher to get the Epic Game Store and so forth. I don't think that's going to be the culprit, but software seems like it still needs to come along, although there is a lot of really good stuff in the software. I'm rambling a bit. I need to wrap this up. My first impression is overall pretty good. I know what this thing is going to be for me, and for what I want it to be, it's going to be really good. Stay tuned, because I am going to jump into the desktop mode and show some of that stuff off and talk about what can be done in that desktop mode. Can you fire up a video editor? Can you fire up LibreOffice and do some actual like Word document text stuff in LibreOffice? I believe you definitely can. You can also, of course, just use Google's Office suite, and that's going to work just fine in your browser. Can you download and install GIMP to do photo editing? You can definitely do all of these things, and it's something I'm going to bring to you guys very soon to cover this in a different angle. But until then, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.